It's time to give our hot takes about the Miami Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremiah Geiger2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And joining me on today's show is my friend Presley Walker. It's been a long time since he's been on the show. I think the last time was June. At the beginning of the season, or was it mid-season?
Early June, late May.
Okay, so a lot has happened since then for sure. And on today's show, we're just going to give our hot takes about the Marlins, maybe some unpopular opinions, but that could be grounded in reality. We're going to give our reasoning for them. So Presley, first off, you texted me a while back. You said, I have a big take that I got to get out to the world. Let's hear it. The floor is yours.
Man, it's really, I don't even think it's unpopular. The later the season got, I feel like the more people probably would agree with me. But I think it's obvious that this team makes the playoff if Skip Schumaker is the manager.
Ooh, I like it. I like that.
Yeah, I think they got the wrong guy, and I don't think that they're going to see any success with the guy they have right now. But
it's so hard for me to say that they wouldn't with Skip, because we saw Skip do a miracle with the 23 Marlins, and then he just got hired. He took a hiatus, went to the Rangers front office, and now he's going to be the Rangers manager.
Shots at the Marlins because basically he said it was an organization that doesn't care about winning, but
it's one of those things where with Clayton, I want him to succeed because I want the Marlins to succeed. And midway through the season, I would say in August, I was so done with Clayton McCullough because I felt like he just couldn't manage a baseball game. It was the worst in-game decisions.
He doesn't know how to manage a bullpen.
And the bullpen in particular. And then there was the argument like, well, is he making these decisions? Maybe there's somebody up top. He's just
I don't like the president of baseball operations or whatever his title is. I don't like him either. So I just don't think they have the right staff, man. I don't.
And then he said, well, I am making the decisions. And I was like, well, then that's somewhere where you have to improve, because I think the team as currently constructed, the roster has the opportunity to make the playoffs next season. I'm not just going to say has the opportunity. I think the expectation should be you're competing for a wild card spot at the minimum, because you're a 79-win team. You have the opportunity to get better on paper. Now, if you stay healthy and you execute, all that it takes is just going out there, taking care of business, and you're going to be in position to win a game, because I think the talent level has increased to that point. Manager has a big part of that. Skip was my guy, man. I wanted Skip to be the Marlins manager for years. I felt he established a culture. He was a baseball guy through and through. And it really disappointed me when there was a mutual parting of ways. We both know that,
they forced him out.
He wasn't Bendix's guy. So no. I don't know if that has something to do with it. But yeah, I think if Skip was the manager, I think this team they might have backdoored their way into the playoffs. I agree with you on that.
I'm not saying they would have done anything. I'm not saying it probably would have just been a repeat of 23, but we had fun in 23. So
right.
It's really hard to be miserable every year in and year out. So especially getting to watch the Mariners and the Brewers, teams that lack the postseason success. They're having all this fun, and we're just sitting here. Another offseason waiting for something to happen, and it's not going to happen.
For the winter meetings.
This is kind of another take I have. It's like, at what point? Because I don't like Bendix, but I do give him credit. He's gotten guys that Kyle Stowers, Connor Norby. I know you hate him, but Connor Norby. He's like you said, he's built a team. You got the guys to make the playoffs. The only thing is that like these small market teams, and like it's come to what we expect, they never make the big move. So like we need in an off season where there's very few really good free agents, you need to go pick one of those top 5 free agents who in reality are going to be overpriced because it's such a smart class. And you need to go get one and like add an established or trade, make a big trade. Like you need to do something to add a big name to this roster. And year in, year out, we don't see it happen. Year in, year out, we don't make the playoffs. And it's like, at what point are you going to put it together that like the big names are big names for a reason? Like you got to get the one time we've seen it happen, and it took a year to develop, but we saw him go get Jorge Soler, and then a year after struggling, came back and had what was nearly a career year and led the team to a postseason run. So like,
don't forget Avi Garcia though.
No, we don't talk about that part of it. You miss on some, but like look at like what the Dodgers do. Like Snell basically didn't pitch at all this year. They spent a lot of money on him, and now he's striking out. What did he have? 11 Ks last night.
Yeah, 8 shutout innings.
Yeah, like just shoved it up the Brewers' butt. So like you have to make moves and pay people money in order to succeed, and this team is never going to do it.
That's why for Peter Bendix, at first I really couldn't stand, and I still can't stand the approach to the media. I really don't like that part of it. I've come now to accept it. That is what it is. He's not going to, give us anything. He's not going to show his cards. But I will say this is a huge offseason. Look, the rebuild, it happened. I disagreed with it at the time, trading Arias and everything, but it happened. And now it's at the point where this offseason, you see a 17-game win improvement. Now is the time to go out and spend money, supplement the roster. If they don't, then that's where I'm going to be upset, because I think you're wasting an opportunity to try to be competitive and to try to make the playoffs. Because again, the expectation, I think, should be playoffs. Is that weird to say as a Marlins fan? Yes, because we've been indoctrinated for years that we're not going to win anything. We're always the bottom of the barrel, but this isn't necessarily the truth now. I think Bendix has built a really nice core. Now he and ownership have to work together to make things happen. I look at a guy like Josh Naylor for the Mariners. He's going to hit the free agent market. First base, clear need for the Marlins. I've talked about him numerous times on the show. Would that make sense? Yes. Would it be expensive? Also, yes. What is the price range he would be at? Maybe 70 million, 75 million?
So this is what I was saying, is it's like in a normal offseason where, you have your A-tier free agents, your B-tier free agents, your C-tier free agents, a lot of those are going to be shifted up this year because like you basically have what is Pete Alonso, probably Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, and that's it for like your A-tier guys. Yeah, so guys like Josh Naylor, who would be like probably in a normal year C, low B tier, they're going to get bumped up to like, they're going to be more expensive. You're going to overpay, and they're not going to live up to the contract. But like, you got to make the move because a third of the teams make the playoffs. There should, like what you were saying, right. You shouldn't have that expectation. A third of the teams in the league make the playoffs. It should be all 30 teams goal every year to make the playoffs, unless you're the Colorado Rockies, I guess. But like, there's no reason, especially when you saw your team prove that they want to win. You had guys like Xavier Edwards like go out on a national media tour and tell everybody like, we want to win. We're here. We want to win. And they don't ever get any help from the front office. So this would just be the time to show. That's kind of the thing, is I don't like Bendix, but I didn't like Kim at first either until she went out and started spending. Like even the obvious Avi contract, I was like, yeah, let's go. It didn't work out, but like, you're showing me that you're trying. And that's really like all that we've asked for the past, 20 years, is just like, prove to us you're trying.
It's effort. This team has to put in effort. And That's why I'm willing to give this offseason a chance, because I think it's such a critical part. And we're going to talk more about the offseason later and what, how important I think it really is. And I do think it's one of the most important off seasons we've seen in a long time to wrap up the Clayton McCullough conversation that we brought up at the beginning of the show. At first I wanted him gone. I thought the Marlins were never going to take the next step with him because I just hated his in-game decisions. Now I'm at the point, like, we did see a 17-game win improvement. Whether that was the majority of the players, you could argue that overperforming in spite of Clayton McCullough. I'm trying to be nice because he does seem like a nice guy. He seems like he genuinely cares and he's trying his best. But I do think Skip was a better manager. For a first-year manager compared to Clayton as a first-year manager, it's night and day different. And Skip was better. So coming up next, we're going to talk about more hot takes. I'm going to give you one. That's coming up right after this. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you're not saving as much as you thought you were, and who doesn't love saving money? I know I do. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Back here with Presley Walker. At the end of last segment, you might have heard the dogs barking if you're listening to podcasts. I'm trying my best to control them, but I have a baseball right here and they want to play with it. So they're going crazy. Hopefully they're calm the rest of the way. So my hot take, we talked about Clayton McCullough, Skip Schumaker. Excellent argument, by the way. I think we agree on that. For the most part, Peter Bendix, I like what he's done this offseason. That's coming up in the third segment. We're going to talk about how big that is for Peter Bendix and company. The second hot take we're going to talk about on this show, and this is my hot take, is that if the Marlins want to make the playoffs and the expectation is making the playoffs, it starts now. There's no more rebuild. The rebuild days are over. It's all about building. And they're going to betray that idea and destroy any trust with the fan base if they trade away either Edward Cabrera or Sandy Alcantara. I think if the Marlins trade away one of those two pitchers, they are not taking the playoffs seriously in a year, which they can.
Yeah, this is kind of an easy. I completely agree. I said when they initially traded Arias, you got to blow it up. Like you got to blow everybody gone, and they didn't do it then. Then they didn't trade Sadie going into last year, where his value is not diminished, and then came out. He pitched poorly this year. I had my take, but no, I completely agree. And I texted you at some point in the middle of the year and was like, "Nah, I see the vision. Like, just give me those three. Get me a solid 4, maybe 2 4s. I think you finish out the rotation with 2 4s, and then you got probably what's going to be 3 2s and 2 4s. And that, I mean, any rotation that's built like that is going to win games. So I completely agree. I mean, could you imagine like I said that Sadie may never have been an ace, and he just had that one really good year, and I got got a lot of slack for it. But I'm thinking like at the end of the day, even if he's not your ace, like could you imagine Sandy being your 4? Like,
yeah, that's you're in a great position.
yeah, like, I mean, that means you have, well, probably Ryan Weathers having a really great year. That means maybe Braxton Garrett comes back and is your 5, and like you're looking at a rotation better than what you had in 23, and your 23 rotation was a top 5 rotation in baseball. So like you're immediately set up for the playoffs there. So yeah, at this point you can't trade either of those two.
And that's my point is like, I think it's obvious to you and me, but to the majority of, I guess, national coverage of the Miami Marlins, I don't think it is obvious. I still go on, I just Google Marlins, just Google Miami Marlins, and you're going to see 3 articles talking about trading Sandy Alcantara, a possible Edward Cabrera trade, and it doesn't make any sense to me. And there hasn't
Because they've been a
this
feeder team for the past decade to other bigger franchises.
And I want that narrative to change. And I want, and this goes back to the Sandy Alcantara don't trade him take, is Peter Bendix, when asked about it a couple of weeks ago, there was no vocal commitment to him. It was, I don't have the exact quote, but essentially it was just, we look at individual players as, we evaluate them all and whatever's best for the team. It was just a bunch of nothing, which we know
he can't verbally commit. I think you should listen in on him, but unless you're getting an A-tier package, and this goes for like any team, like unless you have Paul Skeens, like if you're gonna get it, if somebody's gonna overpay for Sandy, then let them overpay. I don't disagree with that. Especially like,
what do we mean by overpay? Do we mean overpay in prospects?
They're sending 2 of the organization's top 5 prospects for Sandy because of the limited free agent class. And I'm going to be like, yeah, that was the move. You did the right thing. If they were to do that, like I just wouldn't actively be shopping him. I would be listening I would be listening in on what teams have to offer. And that goes for everybody except for Yuri. I'm talking, and I think maybe X, but I only say X because I think he's a leader. I think he's got kind of like the leadership thing going. So I don't want to. And the thing that sucks the most about the Sandy situation is if you do trade him, he likes it here. You don't hear a lot of people come out and be like, I like it with the Marlins. He's made it very vocal. Him and Eddie have both come out and been like, I like it here. I want to be here. And it could be just like that's all they really know. But Sandy came from another organization, so you'd assume that he does know something else. So that should, like it's hard to be like, we have a guy here that likes it here and we want to ship him out. So I don't think you should shop him. But if the right offer comes and you trade it and you hit accept, send him off for the right package, I'm not going to be mad. But I would be mad if you don't get the 90th, 95th percentile outcome of a trade. Like it needs to be a package, and you need to get a massive overpay for him if you're going to send him out. If not, you just need to commit.
A massive overpay that I think would have to include a major league ready bat, because
no, for sure,
the pitching has a surplus, but you can't have another trade like Jesus Luzardo for Starlin Caba, where Caba was a top 5 prospect, but he's in low A, because he's in low A. He's years away from the majors. If the Marlins do that with Cabrera or Sandy, and the headliner is a 19-year-old stud who's in low A or high A, then I'm going to be like, this is the same old Marlins, no matter how hyped the prospects are, because I do think this team can make the playoffs. I don't have a problem with trading from the pitching depth. I just don't think it should be either of the big 3, Sandy, Cabrera, and Yuri. Sandy, because the optics are going to be bad, because let's be honest, he's making the most money on the team. He's making $17 million this year. There's a club option next year for $21 million. Will they pick that up? It's the Marlins. I don't know yet. That's wait and see. Wait for that time to come. Cabrera is a little bit more different because he's just an arbitration, and he's so cheap, and he had a breakout season that I think was legit. I think he's going to continue that momentum into next year. He's really come into his own as a pitcher. Yes, he was a late bloomer, but the results, the stuff, it all speaks for themselves. I want him to stay in this rotation because I do think a postseason team is built around pitching, a pitching staff. You have to have a strong pitching staff in order to go out and win and make the playoffs. Yes, you need an offense. The Marlins have struggled offensively for years, but they've come
They
to a
were
point,
significantly better this year.
and
I don't
that's
think
my point.
anybody gave any credit. Like, there was not, I mean, like, I went to the series here in Texas, and there was not a position, which, like, I guess I just didn't realize it until I saw him in person. I was like, there was not an at bat where there was like a runner at second and 2 outs, and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable with this person coming up to the plate. It was every single bat coming up was like, they could get a hit here. Reasonably, they could get a hit here. I did not have any Avi Garcia moments where like he's going to strike out with the bases loaded, 1 out. Like I didn't have any of those.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going with it is you have the pitching depth, and now your offense is in a spot where can it improve? Yes. Is there a couple holes maybe at third offensively? At first, we had the majority of the season go to Eric Wagaman. Yeah, we just talked about Josh Naylor maybe signing with the team. But offensively, I think this team is in a much, much better spot than they were at the beginning of 2024, midway through 2024, where it was just, we were starting guys like Christian, who's that guy? That Christian Pache in August. Like he was a starting center fielder for the Marlins for a stretch. Like that's not where the Marlins are now. They're miles ahead of that. We saw the emergence of Stowers. Otto Lopez has had a really good year. Augustine, we know what he does with the bat. So that's why I say
they got to get him out from behind the plate.
That's
opening day roster.
I've been harping on that for a long time now, and it's they just still think he's a catcher. But the thing is, with Augustine, you're gonna have Joe Mack come up, and
Mack needs to be your opening day starting catcher unless you make some trade for like. And I did. The Braves were kind of shopping Sean Murphy this year, and if you can somehow get your hands on Sean Murphy, then.
But then what do you do with Mack?
Send him in a package somewhere else because I think you should. I think you should shop Stowers.
Really? That's a hot take right there.
What else has he shown? I mean, he had a great year. I like the guy. There's nothing against him. It's just like it's kind of like what we saw with Jarren Duran last year, like with the Red Sox. He had this insane season, went like a career year. He's probably never going to touch that again. And then they didn't trade him when that value was peak. And he was a great player this year. He had like a 3.5 WAR or something like that. That's a really good player. You'd take that on your team all day. But imagine if you would have traded him when he was at a 7 WAR. What was Stowers' WAR this year? Like a 4?
I can pull that up right here. Let's see. I know it would have been higher. He only
he missed games. Yeah, he missed a lot of time.
He was a 3.6 WAR, but
okay. So let's say they'll like scale that to injury to a 4, and then next year you don't trade him and he comes out and he's a 2.2. The Marlins will take a 2.2 WAR player, but imagine if you would have traded him when teams were valuing him at a 4. I think there are trades you can make for major league. Like I think you're at the point in the rebuild. Like let's say you don't want to spend the money because you're the Marlins and you never spend money. Make the trades. Just you have to commit to making the trades, and like I think we talked about it the last time I was on here. GMs are like so afraid of losing that trade that they just won't make it. So like you need to just make the trade. Like trade some of the prospects that you've built up. Don't just hold them there. There's only 9 positions on a field.
Right.
There's only 9 people playing at once. Exactly. And then they made the trade and got rid of.
I don't think you can trade Stowers. I think Stowers is the best player the Marlins have.
Well, I was going to leave. I'll leave the rest of that take for the offseason talk because I do have a following take. Because I'm not going to be mad if they don't trade him. I just think that they should. I think it would be smart to trade him.
Well, let's continue this hot takes episode by also talking about, is this the biggest offseason we've seen since when? We're going to talk about this right after this ad. Guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel's great because it gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, and even follow the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. And I know this week we got the Steelers and the Bengals in Thursday Night Football. For me, it's hard to pick against the Steelers right now. Aaron Rodgers turning the clock back. Bengals, Joe Burrow's out. I know they have Joe Flacco, but it's tough for me to see the Bengals pull that out. So I'm going to look at the lines and see if there's something I like with the Steelers. So if you've got a hunch that you want to put some money on, go ahead, visit FanDuel.com, download the app today and get started. Put $5 on your first bet, and if you win, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets. This is the biggest offseason the Marlins have had since when? I'm going to start it off by saying this is two parts for me, because number one, I think it's the biggest offseason the Marlins have had since 2023's offseason, but that was because after the 2023 season, I expected the Marlins to supplement the roster, and they didn't. Now, in 2025, this is the opportunity to supplement the roster, and it would be a grave mistake if they don't do that.
So I agree. I actually think there was one bigger offseason, and I think this offseason is bigger than 23. I'm going to say, but it's for different reasons. So like you said, they completely failed in 2023. And it does kind of have to do with, like the GM turnover, and just not doing anything after you hired a GM, which was a route they decided to take. Like they didn't add on, like you're saying, they didn't make it. He didn't come in and just like bang, make a trade. Let's make this team better, or commit to the rebuild before the season.
Signed Tim Anderson.
Yeah, well, what a deal. But I honestly think it's the biggest, because I think this offseason was bigger for a different reason. I think it's the biggest offseason since the 2017 offseason, where they traded Stanton and Yelich for nothing, and failed there too. I think it's obviously that was a completely different thing. You were like getting set up for a rebuild, but you had pieces to trade off, and you traded them and got nothing for them outside of Marcelo Ozuna. So like it's just that same thought, but the other way. Like now you have the pieces you need for a playoff run, but you got to add to it. And I think it's as big for the direction of the organization. This offseason is as big for the direction of the organization as it was back in 2017.
I agree. And I think that same era, 2015, even 2016, 2017, when they had that offensive core of Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton, Real Muto, that was
and just refused to add to the pitching outside of Fernandez.
They didn't add to the pitching. And this team didn't add to the pitching. And that was like almost a 3-year streak of theoretically, we have an offense good enough to make a run in the playoffs. We just don't have the starting pitchers. So we're going to sign Edison Volquez. We're going to sign Jeff.
You just sent me back to Matt Latos.
Matt Latos.
Number 2.
And then when Michael Morse, remember that? It was free agent signings that just didn't work out. So I kind of group that era as almost a streak of off seasons where the Marlins could have done something and they just didn't, or they were so cheap in terms of, going out and spending on elite free agents that they wasted that window, and it inevitably forced them to start that rebuild. Because I think,
And kind of what you said earlier, like when you brought up the Orioles, it's the same kind of situation with them. Like you just watched, their window was open for 2.5 years. So like you don't know how long, and I mean it could reopen. It's not like windows can't reopen; they do function that way. But if your window's opening now, you need to jump through it. Like it's not one of those things where Like, we're so used to like the Braves and their window's been open for 10 years. That's not normal unless you're continuing to like add on and like, like the Red Sox won 4 World Series, and their windows for those World Series were 2 to 3 years, and it would restart. Like, the 2 to 3 year window is a normal thing. We saw our window open for 365 days, like, and then immediately slam on our fingers. So windows aren't forever. So if we see talent that has playoff potential, you need to jump through the window. You need to add. You need to do it. It is a time sensitive thing.
And I think it's clear that this team, their window is now. Like, it's opened earlier than I expected.
Anybody expected. There's no way anybody thought that this was a nearly 500 team going into the season.
But that's the thing, is that even though at the beginning of 2025, nobody thought this team was going to be any good, they were. And we saw Agustin Ramirez, Stowers. I mean, the list goes on of guys
we're good with injuries. Like, Norby missed half the year. Stowers missed half the year. They didn't have a first baseman for 3/4 of the year.
So it's now, hey, okay, now you reset and you're like, maybe we outperformed expectations. We didn't expect to be this competitive, getting eliminated in the last week of the season with a real chance to make the playoffs. But that should change our thought process here. Now it should be, all right, now we know we can compete if we supplement the roster. We have reinforcements in the minor leagues. Robbie Snelling dominating AAA. He'll be up in 2026. Joe Mack will be up in 2026.
Is Thomas White estimated?
Thomas White could. He's in AA.
Yeah. I think his ETA, like on the MLB thing, says 26. So I that's only so accurate, but I mean, we've seen guys jump through the minors quick, especially in the pitching side of things. Like, I don't see why not. He could come in and be a bullpen arm, at least down the stretch. Like, you have guys in the minors ready to go for sure.
And White is actually in AAA. I completely forgot that he got promoted 2 levels. Like, he's a beast. So this team, they have a legitimate chance of taking advantage of this offseason, bucking the narrative. This is the same old paltry Marlins, the feeder team, and making a run at this thing.
Also, other franchises seem to forget that we do have 2 World Series. It's amazing. But, I kind of, if you're going to have a checklist, right, it's, for me, and I feel like every time I've ever come on here with you, I've said this, you need to sign some guys in-house. Like, I'm a big proponent. You need to get Connor Norby locked up.
Oh, wow.
If you're not gonna trade him, Stowers needs to be locked up. Which, that's kind of my thing, is like, this is the only offseason I'm giving you where I said shop him. But like, if you don't shop him, you don't get him out, you need to lock him up. You need to sign the guy. You need to figure out the catcher situation. So like, either you need to go make a deal for an A-tier catcher, especially because pitching is such a big deal here. It's almost a situation where, like, man, I really wish I had Rubito behind the plate. But you need to either commit to Joe Mack, or you need to go make a trade for an established catcher. Like, try to get something off the A's for Shea Langeliers, like something like that. You need to either go do that, and then trade one of your catchers for another bat, or you need to commit there. And then something that's so underrated, they really need to find a top-end closer. They need a closer. They kind of went like closer by committee this year, and it never felt safe. Even when it worked out, it never felt safe. I watched it fail here in Texas. I watched them give up a 2-run home run to tie a game. I mean, they won the game, but like, would have just been nice to play 9 there. And I think that's, we had that in 2023 with Tanner Scott. So you see the teams like that are this deep in the run, the Mariners have Munoz, the Blue Jays have, what's his name? He was a free agent that they got this year.
Hoffman.
Hoffman. The Dodgers have, kind of Tanner Scott, kind of Kirby Yates. But I mean, like they have two dominant guys that just whoever's going better, basically. And I don't even know who the Brewers are throwing at the end. They might be the only the team that's had a closer for the past decade.
They got the big guy, Tyler McGill, right?
Oh yeah, Tyler McGill. Yeah. So I mean, like it's just the teams that you see succeed have established closers, and I don't know why the league was like the closer by committee thing is a deal, but that's something you can't commit to. You have to commit to a closer, and you need him to be a guy because if they're going to go on a playoff run this year, unless you do what we're saying and go lock up a bat, go pick up a top end bat, your offense is still going to be, like it feels like if your offense puts up 5 runs, you're probably going to win the game, but you're going to have a lot of close 3-1, 3-2, 4-2 finishes. And you need a guy back there that you can trust to give the ball in the 9th inning every night.
Yeah, I want to see this team address the bullpen as well. That the bullpen free agency market is deep. There's a couple names that are interesting. You look at Devin Williams, who's going to be a free agent, not going to get a huge contract, but is he a bounce back candidate? Can the Marlins do the Marlins?
That the Marlins can afford.
Ryan Helsley, same thing. Down season. Can he rebound in 2026? I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. It just depends on how the organization feels. You
got some in-house guys too.
In-house,
you said, Henriquez and stuff. But like you mentioned, Robert Snelling. If you can't find a spot for him in the rotation, go bump him 3 miles per hour and throw him in the bullpen. Start the year and see how that works.
Max Meyer.
Max Meyer's a great candidate for that. That would be a great candidate. Yeah, for real.
95, 96, probably throws 98 out of the pen with a slider.
With a nasty slider, yeah.
He's not a starter.
He's not where he's not.
But we'll wrap it up here, Presley. Appreciate you as always coming on the show. It's great talking with you. It's always a blast.
Appreciate you having me, man.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. I appreciate everybody tuning in. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.